thank you for joining me today. This is my friend's Footstool. I'm actually doing her sofa at the moment, and her sofa's going to look really smart. And I felt to redo this Footstool in exactly the same design would be a little bit sad, because I think it won't look as good as it could against her new sofa. So we're going to go from drab to fab. It's often used after somebody's been swimming, so there's lots of chlorine marks on here, which is one of those things, and I know it's going to happen to the next one. This will be matching the sofa for a while, so let's get on with it. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the cover, and I will not be reusing the base cloth. It's going to take me a short while to do. I've undone this all the way down here. I'm not going to take it all off, I don't need to. This was added on. I kind of had enough of going round and round, so I'm going to just pull this out and cut along here. It's right in behind the foam, so it won't matter. Usually I'd say take it off, especially if it was going to affect the look of the item when it was finished. But once this goes over, nobody will know that that was still on there. There's no ridge. The cover comes off, leaving the foam in place. Now I'm going to cut round the top of this like this, because I want the dacron to fold over the top of the frame, because I'm going to make it look like it's got a pillow top on it. So I'm going to do this all the way around. This has just been stapled on to the top of the frame, so I'm going to pull that off. Here's the base. I need a piece of fabric, comes to 39, so 40 inches by 16, because it's got to be at least 15 wide, and then I need to go at least 4 inches, I'll go 5 to there, so at least 10 inches for the side pieces. Now when you want to work out how far round halfway is, I usually go from one corner to the diagonal, bring that round all the way to the back here, which is 54, so 2 widths at 55 by 10, and then I need 2 widths 55 by 4, I think, for the cushion on top, and I'll join them on the end in the centre of the sides. This is a little bit wobbly because it's on a footstool. I put some cardboard under it so that it would be steady, because there's big holes under it to hold it all in place. I have just cut these back at the corners. I did, however, end up putting a plain piece of fabric and then a border around it, because I'm worried about how much fabric we've got. She has the sofa, she has this, and then a couple of scatter cushions to do. What I'm going to do first is find my centre marks on the side, because that's where the pattern matches. There's the first one, and the one on here too. I've also put pins across here because I've got to bring the fabric over the top, and I'm not sure how far just yet. Pop that down there, make sure that that is as even as I can make it, and put a couple of pins through here. It just catches that down, and if that's caught down, it'll hold everything in place for me. So push that down and then pin that like that, just in a few places to start off with. I need a stable base. Here is the fabric I'm going to put over the top. I'm going to place it face down, and I'm going to find the centre pattern there. There we go. So the centre pattern can fit like that over that pin to the end. And all I've got to do is work out where the side of that is, which is a little bit higher, so I'm going to bring that up a little bit to there, all the way along. When it pulls down, it might alter a little bit. I'm just going to try to make it as even as possible prior to pulling it into place, and then pin it to the fabric below in a straight line, going in both directions. I think that's it. Pull the bottom onto the edge like that. Once I've got some idea of where it's going, I can even it up. I'm just trying to get an idea at the moment as to where everything goes, and then back down this way. Now, I was hoping that my piece of fabric would go all the way around or at least far enough around that I could just have the two seams in it. But unfortunately, when I pull this around here, this end, which means it doesn't go around, so I will be putting seams in the corners, which I absolutely detest doing. I think if I cut down here, I've got all my seam allowance for this piece, and then I'll turn it and do exactly the same on the other side. Here's the center, which I'll line up here. I'll just pin it on to here, and the same on the other side here, so it's even. I'm going to find a piece to go along the back here and on the other end too. I ended up making a mark for the center there, which I'm going to line up, bring that across, face down, line that one up. Now I'm going to come into the corner. So I've brought both of those pieces in together. Along the side here, I'm going to just line it up and put some pins in. The reason I'm doing it inside out is because then I don't have to move any pins. The pins will be exactly where I want them to be. I will pull that over a little bit more, and that, make sure that goes into the corner. That can fold down, and I can straighten up any edges that I want to when I'm sewing. This is just a guideline. And then keep those edges parallel there, then pin it into the corner here so it lays flat. And I'm going to do this on all four corners. Where it starts to fold over the top here, I'm going to take that there. I need to take it all the way down. I want it relatively tight, although I can put another layer of wadding around it if I want to. I checked that the bottom of this pattern would be at the bottom of that pattern. So by making sure that this and this were level, I could carry on going around the corner, and then cut. And be generous when you cut, don't cut it too close. Now I'll come into this corner. Exactly the same method on all four corners, just make sure that this is level. I think before I actually remove anything, I will cut this back to the original sewing on the other side, and it's not that far. I'll cut across here. It's level with there, or levelish with there. I'm just going to remove the pins and put it through where it should be. Sometimes I change the thought pattern of what I'm going to do. That's okay, you can do that. Put that there, and I'm going to take this one off as well here. So I'll repin here, and I'll repin along here. If I pull that up, that works. I'm going to sew this up like this, and I'm going to test it on the base in a minute, because pins only give you so much of the story, and unfortunately the top of this wasn't very even. It is on one end and not on this end, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Hold those two there so they're nice and flat and straight against each other, and it's all going to be hidden underneath anyway, so I'm not going to worry. And then the turning comes here and into the top. Make sure everything's covered, which it is. I am going to top stitch towards the centre back. I actually went into the long side, so that's fine. So long as it's the same both ends, put that there and secure. And I'll go to the top here and then round the corner. Now when you go into a corner like that, just make sure that you pull everything out against each other like that. I'm going to make up some piping, and I've laid it all facing up because it is very easy in some areas to flip it over and think you're on the right side. And I will just pop these at right angles like that. Set them up to go from corner to corner on one of the smallest stitches, and then sew. Now the pieces I've cut are all 1.5 inches wide because they're going to be sewn in. I try to do 1.5 when I'm sewing piping into a seam, otherwise it's 2 inches if it's going to be stapled. Sometimes for stapled piping I just do it 1.5 because it's easier to cut everything the same size. So I'm going to just tag all of these together until I've finished this pile. I've folded the fabric around the piping and I'm just going to sew this in on the longest stitch. I'm not too far from here, so I'll do this now. I'm going to clip the join and then take that back to within 1/4 of an inch of the seam that I sewed in. Open that up, fold it over so that I can keep everything straight, and then sew. Make sure that's still in there. And across, keeping the piping hard into that fold here. Pull that up because I don't want that pleat there. There we go, push it down. The thing with this fabric, it's quite interesting, is it's 2 pieces of fabric and then they swap depending on which is the prominent colour. So just be aware if you've got something like that, that it does sometimes want to pleat. But it'll go in nicely. And I'll make my way to the end of this length of piping. I'm going to sew the piping on. I'm going to start at the side, put under here like that, longest stitch, and I'm going to sew to the front corner here. When I get close to the corner, I'm going to cut in at a 45-degree angle and sew to the corner, almost get there, judge where 1/2 inch is, lift the foot, turn, and I'm going to pull it all the way back like that and then slot that into position, and I'm going to sew this piping on all the way around. And I will also do it on the bottom of the cushion with the orange centre in it, because I'm going to be putting the seat cushion together. I'm just stopping here and I've got a really generous 2 inches over there. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this piece back like that and then lay that piece across here and work out where my crossover is, which is about here. Fold that piece over and cut that in that direction as well. Do that so the raw edges are running parallel. Pop that down again, that over the top, and determine where halfway across is. So that's about there, and that's where my seam will go. Lay that down on top to where I assume my seam needs to be, which is about there. Pop that underneath like that. Shorten the stitch and then sew the 2 pieces together in a straight line. Always check, open that up, lay that down. That looks like it's going to go in quite well. I've lined everything back up, raw seams together, and I will just sew the piping into place. I prefer to do mine like this. I have more control over where it's going. I've stapled this over the top in various places. I've also stapled this back up into place as high as I can. One of the things that bothers me is the way this is. So all I'll be doing is drawing a line from here down about 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'll use my oscillating tool to take this corner out because it doesn't need to be there. It's an easy fix. I am going to cut up to this corner here. If it's not straight, I'm not going to worry about it. It's better if it isn't. Down into this corner and then to this corner. It gives me plenty of room to be able to put the cushion back in. I have my piping in place, so I'm just going to pull that out to the edges there and here. Having pulled these out to the edges, I'm going to initially put pins in those corners. I want those to be stable, make sure it's not attached to anything underneath and it's free to move. And I'll do the same at this end too. Make sure that's where I want it. Pull that back and put a couple of pins, one there and one here. I just want the top and the bottom to be stable to each other. The same along here, make sure that everything is stable and looks even. So basically the piping has to run along the top edge of the base, because when the cushion is put in, that's where it will be lined up to. Now it can all be removed. Pop this back underneath, and I'm going to be running this side of the foot along the zigzag here. I'm going to hold the fabric firm and aim towards each corner. I'm going to be pulling the top fabric against the bottom fabric because the bottom fabric is often a little bit loose. Like this, into the corner. Go over a little ways, foot up, needle down, Twist everything back into position, straighten it out, put that down again, pull the fabric into the next corner and remove the pins as you go along, still with that side of the foot against the zigzag. Go over a little ways and then twist again, and do this around all 4 sides. Straighten out the fabrics as you go. Then check all your corners, make sure everything is caught in, and go around again. And the reason I go around again, I usually go out a little ways as well, just an oomph, is because people tend to pick these up by their cushion at the top. So you don't want somebody picking it up and for it to fall to pieces. Straighten everything out again into the corners. And the second time I usually do reverse stitch so that those corners are really held into place. Like that. And then on round. Give it a little bit of tautness. It doesn't have to be too much as you go round. I lined everything up to the top of here across and then drew a line and cut along the line, because I was finding trying to line up to cut across was not working very well for me. I'm going to cut the 2 ends to 16 inches. I think again I'm going to just mark it and then measure across. I'll cut those up in a minute. I'll do the same with the other small piece. Just measure across. I'm doing it from the back side so nothing will show through. There. And across to here. The long piece here, I have to find the centres. So again, pop that in the centre there. Measure this way for 20 inches and the same the other way, which will give me my 40 inches. You could actually do this for the side border. Then I'm going to put them right sides together like this, and I'm going to pin a long piece next to a short piece next to a long piece, so all 4 pieces are joined together like that. And in order for them not to twist, I'll lay that one out and fold that one back, put this one on top. There's my piece there, fold that back, and I'm going to come to the back end here, put that in, so everything is in a straight line. Work out where your 1/2 inch seam allowance is, put it down, and I am going to go forward and back and then all the way to the other side and then reverse that side too. I want all of them to be absolutely secure either end. Work my way around to the next one. All edges together. I'm not going to top stitch it because I don't want a whole load of bulk in the corners. I want to be able to open these seams out so that they're easier to go around the corner. Line up the centres of the sides and pin them into position. Line up the corners. This looks like it's not going to work. It might be just the way it pulls in. I'm not going to worry about it too much at the moment. I will pin this into position and sew down, and if I have to adjust some of the corners, I will adjust them separately, because sometimes when you put piping in it pulls everything up. I will however make sure that I know where the centre of the ends are so that I can line up the centres there too. So I'll line that one up here. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just cinching these in, but I'll see how it goes as I make my way around this. I'm only putting them in really to be a guideline for me. You can see it's a bit gappy. I'll pinch where the centres are and then just pull it until it goes in, and I'll do the same on the other side. Put this one on this side, seeing as I'm going to be sewing the border in from the top. I'm going to start at this match up here. Remove that first. Double check that that is absolutely lined up. Slide it underneath like that. Drop the foot, and I am going to be working my way to this one. So I'm going to straighten the border underneath there, pull it and sew it. So I'm pulling the top against the bottom so it goes in evenly. It doesn't need to be pulled too much, just a little bit. And I'm going to keep straightening the fabric out as I go because it's going to twist otherwise. So much easier when you've got a flat base to your sewing machine so everything's smooth. Make sure that that and that line up. I can pull the top slightly. I'll get it to line up here, I think. Hold it and pull it into place. And then work towards this second corner. Pull the pin out as I get there. But if I pull that into line, it will go at the corner. So I'm going to hold the stitched corner to the corner here, so it can't move, and pull that into position. Pull that back slightly. Make sure the seam is open all the way down, and pull that into that corner there like that. As I get there, I'm going to cut the border towards the seam. It doesn't have to be both sides because that would just roll in, and then open the border out slightly so I can go around it. Into the corner, lift the foot, and then pull all of this round and this underneath like that. Pull it into the center here. Foot's down, the border is pulled out at the back so it's nice and even, and then into place. Sometimes takes a bit of wriggling. As I get towards there, put the corner to the corner there, and then just pull this into place too. I'm going to undo this pin because it's a little bit awkward to get round otherwise. And again, line up the corner with the stitching and make my way to that corner too. Make sure the seam is open, and again cut the border in towards the stitching. Only on the top, you don't need to do the bottom. Foot up, pull the top onto the border like that. Again, line that part of the pattern together. Straighten out the border so it's to the back. Make sure the foot's down. I'm going to make my way around the whole of the top like that until it's in place. I've got the top sewn together. Seems to have gone in quite well. Now I'm going to put the bottom on. I'm going to make sure all of that is face down. I have a centre mark there, so I'm going to put the centre to the centre, and I'm going to pin that into place. I'm going to just pin the corners in like this, seeing as they went in quite well. Corner to corners, and then the main centres as I go round, and then I'll get the bottom of the cushion attached to, and look what happened, all of these went over. Oh well, never mind, I don't think it's going to really matter. What I might do is just cut up into the corner there and just open it up. That's a way of getting around this problem, and then I'll do the same here and work my way around to the other end. So here's my centre mark, here's the centre of the side, and I'm going to start sewing just a little ways up from there. Make sure all the raw edges are together. You see it's slipped. I don't want it slipping. And under. There we go. I have just sewn the new top all the way around onto the old top, because this is now going to be the bottom. Now, before I'm going to put this on, I'm going to check all four corners on the top. That one seems to have gone in okay. And on the bottom, I think I can cinch that one in a little bit more. I'll do the same on all of them. Like, this is a little bit high, so I'm going to pull that one in, and likewise down there, because that is too big a difference. That won't take too long to do. I'm going to cut the threads when it's on the unit. I put pieces of fabric underneath, and then I lined up the threads so that I could secure it, and it should be nice and even. It's better if you use a fabric under here with a pattern so you can line the pattern up. The stitches are homeward bounders. There's really nothing nice about them. They're just there to do a job, and that's to pull this in. So I'm going to ease this over so it's more square on. All I'm going to be doing here is pulling this down and into place. I'm going to try to make it as even as possible all the way around. So the next one comes here, and the dog bones kind of go there. At the corners, I really want to bring it in slightly so that there's not quite so much fabric in the actual corners. So I'll work that in as I go. I'm just going to put the piping on, but the piping, I'm going to run the sewing along the outside edge of the base here, all the way along. I'm going to just pop some back tacking down here, and it holds the corners down so that I can screw in the legs. Take that down, and then I'll go the other way. It just stops the trim being pushed up underneath the legs. And then I can screw this one in like this. As it gets closer, I'm going to have to make sure that it doesn't cause this to be a problem. I'm going to push that underneath with my finger and then pull that round so it's square on, and then put the screws in on both sides. When I put this in, I'll just fold it around the leg so it looks nice and neat. Thank you for joining me today. I think it's turned out quite well, and it certainly looks a lot better than it did. If you want to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.